Looking today at a pretty cool project that we've been designing for quite a while and it's finally underway. So if you follow me out into the shop, we'll start to take a look at that, and I'll kind of talk through how it's developed and just all the cool stuff that we're doing on the stair. We'll start over here at the mock-up. So this is for a really cool new vineyard tasting room in Dundee. We've been partnering with the Grant Company, who are the builders executing this project, and then Sarah Story Design on the interiors, and Taylor Lombardo Architects for all the architecture. So we worked really tightly with the whole design team and the clients to come up with this vision. We were given kind of a design board of some ideas, and we basically came to them with this idea of what if we make what they dreamed of, which is a solid wood guardrail. And you can see over here, like, it's happening on the machine right now. Fully 3D carved clamshells going around a steel structure. So this whole stair is gonna have this really beautiful, curvaceous, almost like floral look to it. And what's gonna be really cool is I'm excited for where it comes down and that inflection point where the guardrail wraps around at the landings. This is just gonna be a gorgeous sculptural element. There's lots of really cool metals and other decorative elements here, but in this stair, the focus is on the shapes, and it's just gonna be so incredible once we get it all together. August right now is prepping the block to get rid of as much of the fiber as he possibly can, so that when the machine's running, it's removing just what we want. We don't want that machine running for 17 hours when we can use a saw, we can use other machines to get rid of that. So he's kind of prepping the fiber so it's for maximal efficiency of removal once it gets on the machine right there. It does a roughing cycle, I think 1 or 2 roughing cycles, and then a final smoothing cycle before the final panel goes back over to the bench where it gets finished by hand. What's really cool is because it's getting the black, we were able to use red oak instead of rift white oak. So we're able to get the same look using a much more sustainably harvested, kind of almost a firewood grade wood, to get the same beautiful look that everybody's after. So here you can see a lot of this raw lumber getting broken down. So it's in piles over there where we just were at the CNC and where August was working. But here Tim's starting to break down the red, and we have the white oak. So we're still using white oak for all the treads because the treads are getting a clear coat. So we want to see that. We want to emphasize the hardness too of the white oak. Red oak for all the vertical surfaces that don't get as much wear. White oak for all the visible surfaces that are getting a clear stain. These are gonna be really wild. These are those curvy, like full transition components that I was talking about earlier. And they've been laminated with this custom 45 so that when it's carved out, the grain matches what's happening on the flat. I didn't come up with that, that was my guys. And they saw that, they talked with the architects and basically laid out so that when you get through the curve, you don't get like weird flat grain or not riffs on look. It all is consistent all the way through the whole 3D carved element. So here's the buildup of one of those blocks. So we have a full half round, half of a corner, and then the individual components as they're getting laid up and laid out and color matched so that when they all get put together, once we carve out the solid piece, it's what we want it to be. No knots, no cracks, no voids, no like weird color striping. Even though it's getting stained black, we still want to match as good as we possibly can. And then here is one of those finished clamshells. So it comes off the machine, but then it still has to be hand sanded. So all of these inside corners and radius elements, when it comes off the machine, there's like a grid work of all the tool marks. And so we come in and hand sand all that out so that when it gets finished and it gets that rich black, all you see is the grain of the oak. You don't see all the machining marks. You can see Colin over here is working on one, kind of developing a few different techniques we've had to figure out how to get rid of some of those machining marks, especially on that inside corner in here. So a combination of hand tools, power tools, scrapers. I mean, every element of woodworking we're using on this. Full high-tech 3D design and scanning, all the way to traditional hand carving and hand scraping. Here in shop 3, we've got the structure starting to come together. So we have 3 of 4 flights currently on the table. One is totally done. It's getting its seal coat right now. That one's getting ready to go in. Then we have a wall and floating stair, and then the main floating stair over here is getting fit up and welded together right now. Each one is labeled with its part number, name, and its location, so that this whole structure, basically when it goes together, it's gonna be square, it's gonna be net, it's gonna be exactly to the measurements that's needed, so that the guys here are able to put these together incredibly fast, incredibly accurately, and also so that as soon as the site's ready, we're ready. We can go and put these in while all the wood is still getting finished. We're trying to maximize the schedule. So only the underside of the upper flights is gonna be visible of any of these stairs. These are just almost purely structural, not really decorative at all. One element that's really cool is the underside of all these treads has a bent radius here. So instead of being cut and formed together, when you see from the underside, you don't see that hard, mitered or butt joint edge. When you look up, everything has this nice round, consistent like corrugation. So we don't have like all the hard contrasting lines of the steel inside. It all gets rounded, it all gets softened when all the components like get finished and fit and put together. So that was a great idea. That came from Lita, the lead architect on this job. She has just been fantastic to work with, really collaborative. It's been just nothing but fun to work hand in hand with architecture and with the builders to really figure out how to make something beautiful, gorgeous, and impactful. So here you can see one of our drawing sets. I obviously have all the technical information, but it always starts with some renders or some 3D screen grabs out of the model to give the full effect. So we have a few pages of those renders, and then it gets into the business. To make a incredible statement sculptural piece, you just have to go over every individual detail, every riser, every floor elevation, every transition point, every tread, every guardrail panel. It all has to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb and investigated before it can actually get made to make sure that what we're imagining and what can be executed are aligned. Obviously, it's really exciting to see it here in the shop, but I'm really excited for a few months when it's done and we get to walk through and see the final finished thing.